Welcome back to the Four Pillars of Investing. We've been speaking about the fourth pillar, which is cash flow. Just a reminder that fundamental and technical analysis have to do with informing us, right? Information and gathering intelligence on where a stock might go. And then cash flow is about taking a position to see if we can't position ourselves to benefit from the direction a market might go or the way things in an economy are or with a company. And then, of course, risk management is going to be what we do if there's a change in this information and our position is no longer advantageous. So this is your plan B and your adjustments to your position. Concerning the position, we've talked about long positions, primarily in stock, and that's about ownership. Then we just talked about making some obligations and what a short position looks like. And so now it's time to hop into the next idea, which is derivatives, or in the case in point in this particular class, we're going to introduce options. And I'll say again that those 8 numbers can change your life. Let them be your guide to really help you understand where you want to be. And just like long and short positions, it really doesn't matter which asset class you're in. There'll be 2 things to learn here. The power of a contract. Of course, we're going to use this in paper assets as related to stocks, but really there's contracts in real estate, there's contracts in business, there's contracts everywhere. So as we look at the paper asset class, we spoke about currencies and bonds, debt, equities. Now we're going to delve into this derivative market right here. And when you talk about derivatives, most of the time you're talking about an agreement. And again, it's interesting. I had a conversation just this weekend about, I get in the circles of a lot of real estate guys, a lot of gold and commodity guys, and well, paper assets are just paper. Well, contracts are certainly mostly either written on paper or they're handshake. So the question is, are they real? And what you'll find is, at least my opinion, what I think you'll find is societies can be civil or societies can be primal. And usually it's a piece of paper that is honored by a society that has meaning. For example, if I have a deed, trust deed or a deed to a home, I say, hey, this is a house that I own. Of course, 10,000 years ago, if I'm dragging my knuckles on the ground, like a big caveman, and my neighbor Traw comes over and he's bigger than I am, my house might become his house pretty quickly, no matter what piece of paper I come up with. So it really is, if you look at primal things, New Orleans went from social to primal for a while. When the flood happened, someone said, this is my TV, and the guy breaks in and says, no, it's my TV now, and hauls it away. So, really what proves your home is yours, a piece of paper. What proves your business is yours. Usually it's a piece of paper, and as you grow wealth, you can only defend so much of it primally. How much gold can you carry, and defend in a primal environment? So as long as we, respect these contracts and things are civil, you should be fine. So with that, options are a kind of agreement. We have futures, we have, all kinds of things. Warrants are usually more of a private type of agreement between an individual or an entity and a company that owns some stock. And they're very, very similar. They give us choices. And if you look at it from a standpoint of value, choices, it's valuable to have choices. It's valuable to have options. It's valuable to have warrants or warranties. And so as these things increase in value or decrease in value, they might be traded on their own exchange. So we'll be speaking a lot about intrinsic value. And there's a couple of really important reasons that we'll spend a lot of time in this derivative market, and particularly these options, introducing to you. First of all, they can be an incredible equalizer in terms of risk management. So as we begin to draw close to the end of the cash flow pillar and into the risk management pillar, it's hard for me to imagine someone having a really solid risk management approach without understanding, that person's options and what those contracts can do in terms of risk management. So we'll set the stage for that. Also, I will say that that would be the primary purpose for an option, and the amount of financial education to use an option in terms of protection is, I wouldn't say it's minimal, but it's on the beginner end of the understanding scale. And so in this particular course, that's what we'll really speak about, options with an eye towards protection. So why cover it in the cash flow section if this is really going to be a risk management tool? Well, it's also good to understand what our opportunities may be. However, I will tell you that there's a big world that will go along the education continuum into competency and into proficiency beyond the awareness that we'll give in this class. And so it's a very important time to review the education continuum. Very, very important. And we'll do that at the end of this segment, no question about it. For those that want to pursue options opportunistically, meaning for income, I would recommend learning a little bit about the history of options. And this particular part of the course is really preparatory and very much could be a prerequisite to take our advanced options course or intermediate options course, which is called Ultimate Options. Just to give you an idea of the scope of this, I would imagine it would take most people 6 months to a year to complete the Ultimate Options course. So that's how robust it is and how involved it can be. But it's an incredible opportunity to learn how to use options in terms of protection and also opportunity. So let's look at some history of these types of contracts. We have Thales of Miletus. And here on the right, you can see that this is an olive press. And Thales of Miletus, I'm probably not even saying his name right, but Thales of Miletus was a philosopher, and he became extremely wealthy. And the way he became so wealthy is he got in the olive press business. Now, this is interesting because you have ownership, but you can also have rights to something without owning it. Okay, that's very, very important. For example, I might not own the house, but I have rights to live there if I'm a tenant. I might not own the car, but I have rights to drive it if I've rented it from Avis and paid the money. And so Thales of Miletus speculated that the olive harvest was going to be extraordinary one particular year. I don't know if he saw a lot of rain or what insight he had, but he said, you know what, we're going to have a tremendous olive harvest, and that means we'll be able to get a tremendous amount of olive oil. And so what he did is he created some contracts, which is another way to talk about derivative. And he went to the owners of these olive presses and he said, I'm going to offer a contract to you that will give me the rights to use your olive presses at a certain price. And this was very, very exciting for the people that owned olive presses because they might have been unsure of the harvest. And if there's not a great harvest, there's not a great demand for olive presses. And, often people in that situation will feel a bird in the hand is better than two in the bush. As they'll say, we'd rather take some money up front and get some guaranteed money from Thales here. We'll take his guaranteed money up front. A bird in the hand is better than a bush. And if we have a great harvest, well, gosh darn it, we'll kick ourselves. But if we have a lousy harvest, Thales has already given us his money. So Basically, he had the rights, and that's a very important word, or he had the choice, you could say, to, another word for choice that starts with an O is an option, is he had the option or the right or the choice or the ability to use these olive presses. And so they drew up a contract, he paid for these, everyone signed it, and there he is. So he doesn't own the olive press, but he does have rights to the olive press. Well, think about it. If the olive press, or if the olive harvest, rather, is abundant, and the demand for these is just incredible. I need a press to press my olives. I've got all these olives, but I haven't had a chance to press them to get the oil out and sell it. This contract's value, I'll put it in the form of a question. Where is the value of this contract going to go? And we call that intrinsic value. In other words, the demand for rights to the olive press go up, and perhaps Thales could exercise this and say, I'm going to take control of the olive press and get in the olive press business. Or perhaps he'd just sell the contract and say, look, I paid this much for it. Now you can buy these rights from me for this much. And he became very, very, very wealthy. And I'm sure he's not the first person in the world to do this. But it's 624 BC. That is a long time ago, simply to illustrate that this is how men can think and work. And so the idea of a contract and tying something up, right, getting a guarantee up front can be used for speculation. And so that was very speculative. Until we invent yen. Actually, in Japan, option contracts were around before they even had yen. They used to pay the samurai, based on my research, they would pay the samurai in rice before they had yen. So they would get rice rations. Well, one of the problems that a samurai has is they can't control the price of rice. And this is really important. Robert Kiyosaki, we were in Phoenix one time, and man, when he said this, it hit me like a thunderbolt, as it were. He said something like this. He says, risk has a relationship to control. And I thought about that. If your control goes down, your risk goes up. But if you can control something, the risk goes down. And just think about that for a moment. Write that in your notes and write that in your brain as part of the fundamental financial education that you want to have. Is whenever looking at a situation, you ask yourself, what degree of control I have over the outcome? And if I have a lot of control over the outcome, then I have very little risk. But if I have little control over the outcome or no control over the outcome, I have lots of risk. If you go to Las Vegas, that's a very risky place. You take a lot of risk. Let's say the roulette wheel begins to spin. You don't have any control over where that roulette wheel lands. You don't have any control over what card might come up off the bottom of the deck. You don't have much control over those dice and what numbers might come up. And so that lack of control can transfer over in the stock market. When I purchase a home, if I'm savvy and I'm smart, maybe someone like Kenny McElroy or my friend Dan Merrill, they can say, you know what? We can force the appreciation here. We can control the outcome. We know what an after repair value will be, and while we can't control the entire real estate market, Kenny might say, look, I can put in better management and put some controls on costs. I can control what type of appliances are in there and upgrades, and that should fetch a better price. So one of the nice things in real estate is you can control an outcome to a degree, and that control at least addresses some parts of the risk, right? Or reduces some of it. However, in paper assets, my gosh, with no options, if you stayed away from the options market, you buy some shares of, say, Apple Computer, you don't have any control on whether those shares go up or down. You don't have control over what the dividend would be paid. There's just not any real control there. And so the samurai were the same. And they said, look, we can't control the price of rice. We might get paid in rice and it might be worth a lot. Rice might, if the harvest is scarce and we get paid in rice, boy, that rice will go a long, long way. We can demand a lot for our small for a small ration of rice. But if there's a huge, abundant harvest and we get our ration, that ration might not be worth it very much. So it's the same as cash. It's the same as whether a dollar is worth a lot or little. And so they would do the same thing, is they would develop contracts that said, hey, I'm going to be able to sell my rice to you at a certain exchange, for whatever it is they want to trade it for. And so that's a huge lesson. It's just massive, is the idea that risk is related to control. And so to prepare you for this course and also the Ultimate Options course, if you care to go to the next level, derivative contracts help control costs and help with your income as well. So, for example, when you look at costs and income, you can be on either side of this coin. Let's do our first example. And let's say I have an airlines over here, and let's say that this person is a chief financial officer of the airlines, and this person is the chief financial officer of an oil company. And both of them would like to be able to have a year where they have a little control over what their costs or income will be. Those two things, costs and income. The CFO of the airlines might say, gee, we'd like some price stability in our costs of oil. We'd like to be able to feel we could fly the friendly skies and know what our fuel costs are going to be in advance. And the CFO of the oil company says, well, I don't know how much our oil is going to be worth. We'd like to fetch a fair price for that in advance. And so these are what future contracts are about. And to agree some option contracts to say, hey, if we can just come to an agreement in the future, it'll bring some control and some stability to how we want to do business. So, the idea that, these are just risky and these pieces of paper aren't worth anything, and, if you want anything, better buy gold, that's not the real world. The derivative market is massive, and it exists. It is real. These contracts are binding under a civil society, and so and so it is. So maybe the airlines person says, I want the choice to buy the oil at whatever a barrel, let's just say $30, just for throwing out a number. I want a choice to buy oil at $30 a barrel, right there, $30 per barrel. And I like that anytime for 1 year. And this is just a quick example, for 1 year. And that's great. So what this guy does, he says, okay, I promise. He makes a promise. And you'll notice the obligation here on this side. Very, very, very important. We know that people on the long side have ownership, and the people on the short side, we started off by borrowing something. Well, there was other ways to make obligations too. You could promise money as well. So he says, I promise to sell something. So he has an obligation now. I promise to sell my oil to you at $30 a barrel. Now, this is nice because what will happen is for this agreement, he's not going to promise this out of the goodness of his heart, right? a future would be different, but this is an option. So maybe this person says, I will pay you a certain amount of money up front, a premium, for the right to do this. Well, this might be exciting to the oil guy, because he says, look, I'm going to get some guaranteed money up front. And, worst case scenario, oil was worth $50 a barrel, but I got to sell it to this guy at 30 when I could have got 50. Well, it would have been nice to get the 50, but I'll take a bird in the hand now instead of two in the bush. And what's interesting is if the price goes below $30 a barrel, well, this person doesn't have to spend 30, but at least this guy got some money up front, because if it goes below $30 a barrel, he's going to be selling it for 25, 20 anyway, and at least he got some money. So this is very much a win-win, very, very often. It doesn't guarantee that both guys will get maximum value. It doesn't, hey, this guy on the oil side, if it's $50 a barrel, well, gosh darn it, that would have been nice. Gee whiz, if the price falls to 20, the Delta Airlines guy, he wasted this money to lock it in at 30 because he's going to buy it at 20. So there's no guarantee that the optimum scenario will play out for either one for maximum profit. But you know what? Both are probably willing, more often than not, to get into some agreement like this, because it can bring a little bit of stability to this guy to say, look, at least now I can map out my year and say, look, our costs for oil are going to be $30 a barrel plus this premium at maximum. That's the most we'll ever pay. Now let's map out our plan for the year. And this oil guy here says, look, we have no guarantee we'll be able to sell it at 30, whatever it is it's going to be, but at least we're picking some money up front here, and we're willing to take this money up front. If we do wind up selling it at 30, we're happy with that. We can make money at that. Gosh darn it, too bad it wasn't 50, but we're okay. So if you think about this and rewind this tape over and over and over again, you can have an idea of where this works. So if we have $30 a barrel, it could go to 50, and it could go, let's say, to 25 or 20, or however long you want to, whatever number you want to put there. And in both scenarios, both people, can rationalize a deal like this. Let's do it one more time. Let's say it goes to 50. Well, certainly this guy is going to be pretty happy on the airline side that he's got it locked in at 30, and he's very glad he paid this money. But if it goes to 20, he'll say, gosh darn it, I'll probably not exercise my right to buy at 30. I'll probably buy at 20, but gee whiz, I paid this premium, and that money was not necessary to be spent. So he's very, very happy if it goes above 30. He's kind of bummed out if it goes down below, but at least he's buying his oil cheaper, and he had some insurance. So let's talk about that word insurance. Is very much a safety idea here is that this guy is insuring his costs against huge oil prices. Isn't that really what he's doing? He's paying a premium to ensure that he can buy cheap, even if it goes up here. This guy here is getting some income. And he says, look, I don't even know if I'll be able to get, if it goes down here, he's going to be really, really happy. Because, he says, wow, I'm selling at $20 a barrel, but at least I picked up some income up front this way. And if it goes to 50, he's going to be a little bummed because he's like, wow, I'm losing $20 a barrel I could have had. But you know what? We can be viable at 30, and we did make some money up front. So for both people, a bird in the hand is often better than two in the bush, and they really want to get control over the future. Isn't that what insurance really for? Is to help us with unforeseen things in the future. Houses burning down, cancer announcements. If you don't get cancer, you're probably thinking, wow, look at all that money I wasted on health insurance. If you don't get in an auto wreck, look at all that money you waste on car insurance. But if you do get in the wreck, you're happy. So you're happy that you had insurance at least. So that's one way, is to insure against costs. Okay, let's do another example of this, just to get the concept down before we actually look how it works in stock prices. So here we have a farmer, Farmer Jones here, and here we have a cracker company that makes wheat crackers. So this guy is a wheat farmer right here, and this guy is a cracker. Well, you'll notice here that this person wanted to be able to buy oil very much, right? Well, in this case, this person wants to be able to sell wheat. So he wants the choice. He doesn't want the choice to buy. He wants the choice to be able to sell his wheat for sure. And this person might make a promise to buy the wheat, because he's going to be buying some anyway. Why not promise to buy it from this farmer? So maybe he says, I want to sell my wheat at $10. Let's just say, I'm just throwing these out here. I don't follow the wheat market. You know, maybe it's more than 10, maybe it's 8, maybe it's 6, maybe it's 4. I don't know what it is. But let's say he wants the choice to sell his wheat at $10 a bushel. And bushel, I don't know how to spell bushel. And he says, you know what, as a farmer, if I get $10 a bushel, I'm going to have a pretty good year. I'll be able to make enough money to stay in business. You know what, I'm willing to pay this guy a little bit of a premium here. I'll give him some money up front. Say, here's some money up front, but I want to be able to knock on your door and be able to sell my wheat at $10 a bushel. That's a good feeling for him. Now, you know, if all of a sudden the harvest is bounteous, right, and everyone's got wheat, and let's say that the price of wheat goes from $10 a bushel down to $5 a bushel, this guy's going to be pretty happy, because while everyone now, all the other farmers are selling theirs at $5 a bushel, he has the choice to sell at $10 a bushel over the next year. And so he feels pretty good about that premium he paid. So what he's insuring here is not his costs, he's insuring profits, right? He's looking to insure his income, his ability to sell, right? That's what he's doing. He's saying, I want to insure, my ability to sell here. Now this guy's going to make a promise to buy at $10. Let's put an at there, at $10 a bushel. And he says within himself, maybe he says, look, we can spend $10 a bushel on wheat and still get a good profit margin on our crackers. And my gosh, if we're willing to spend 10 anyway, why not get a little extra premium up front to pad this a little bit? And make that promise. It makes sense to us. Now, if it goes down to $5 a bushel, he's going to be pretty bummed, right? But he's still going to say, well, at least I got some up front. Now, let's talk if it goes up to $15 a bushel. Well, this guy will probably not exercise this option. He'll probably go find another guy and sell it at 15. But he will lose that money, right? That insurance money, which is fine, which is fine. So again, neither party is guaranteed that the price will be optimal, right? But both parties now at least have something to help them in their future. For the cracker guy, he's getting some money up front, and for the farmer guy, he's getting some confidence in what he'll be able to sell at. So hopefully through these two examples of airlines and oil prices for fuel and also farmers and crackers, that you can at least get a sense. You don't have to have it perfect yet, but you can at least get a sense of saying, it's worth spending some money sometimes to protect your future and to give yourself some options. Of course, when you think about this, if the price went to $15 and this guy has a contract that says he can buy it at 10, well, he knows that he has $5 of what we call intrinsic value in that contract. Think about that. If the price is at 15, he's got $15 that everyone else is spending. If he goes to market and says, I have a bunch of contracts, let me get it $10 a bushel, that thing's worth at least $5. He might be able to sell the contract to people. If it goes down to 5, he has no intrinsic value, but what's he paying for here is time. So we'll go through time value and intrinsic value, but it's not too early to get a sense for that these contracts, these handshakes, these agreements, all a contract is a handshake that's written on paper. It's just an agreement. Someone shakes a hand, writes down what it was, and the value of that contract can go up and down based on what the contract is about. If the contract is about the price at which you can get wheat, as wheat goes up and down, that contract is either going to be very, very valuable to the person or maybe not valuable at all. If the contract is about oil, as the price of oil goes up and down, that contract might become very valuable, and it might not be very valuable at all. So, an option contract, when it comes to stocks, an option contract can be a valuable thing to have. Let's say right here that this person right here was very, very concerned that the stock was going to go down. So let's say the stock's at $100 per share, and he's scared that it might go down to 50 or 80 or 40. He says, I would like the choice to sell this to you at $100, no matter how far down it goes. Here's some cash. So what's he doing? He's getting some insurance. So I said that the primary reason that I'll introduce options at this level, of this first introductory class, this 4 pillars class, is for risk management, right? Of course, this person's receiving some income from making that promise. He says, look, you want the choice to sell, I will give you the promise to buy at $100, because maybe he thinks it's going up anyway. Maybe he was going to buy it anyway at 100. And he says, hey, if you want to sell at 100 and want to guarantee I was going to buy it at 100 anyway, I don't care long term. So we'll talk a lot about that. But this person's basically buying insurance. This person here is trying to receive any income. He says, look, I'll give you that promise. You give me that cash, and I can make money for buying stocks I was going to buy anyway, because I'm bullish on it. If you're bearish and you're nervous and you just want insurance, you want to keep collecting that dividend just in case it goes through a rough spot. If it gets too rough, you want to unload it, great, I'll buy it from you. So an option contract is basically just an agreement that gives, the owner of this contract right here, he's purchasing it, so he's the owner of the contract. It just gives him the right, or more importantly, the choice, hence the word that starts with an O, option, the power, the choice, the right. No obligation at all to sell his stock at $100 in this case. So we'll talk about put options, call options, the right to buy things, the right to sell things, as would be the case here. We'll talk about all those things. Now, how did this come to be? Well, just like Thales and Miletus, guys get together and they come up with these agreements, start shaking people's hands. And back in the early 1900s, you had these things called bucket shops, where and the reason is you kind of throw your bet in the bucket, so to speak. And they had bucket shops, and Jesse Livermore was just a boom bust, high risk guy, always making money, always losing money. And Jesse Livermore just made a killing, and then he would win and lose in these bucket shops where they were very informal. They weren't really regulated. People would just do this stuff outside the market. Well, in the late 1960s, this was formalized. And today it's regulated. There's a market for these. They're not traded in bucket shops anymore. It's called the Chicago Board Options Exchange, the CBOE. And so the CBOE now is an electronic market, and we can trade this market. So what that does, as we go back through this history, is it gives us a place to trade these. So in other words, we can trade currencies back and forth, we can trade bonds now, we can trade equities, and we can trade derivatives. We can trade these options. There's a market for all four of these, and that's a little bit of history of the CBOE, the options market, and how it came to be. When we come back, we'll begin talking more about stock options, and I hope you enjoy.